Come in. Thanks. Thank you very much. Hi, Christina. Hello. Testing, testing. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Hi guys, I'm just trying to make sure that you're seeing the correct view of the slideshow of the PowerPoint. Are you guys seeing the slide fill the whole screen? If you could let me know, that'd be great. Okay, great. Hi Alex, how are you? Thanks for joining. Almost ready to get started. I'm just going to give a couple more moments for people to join. And again, hopefully everyone is seeing the slides in their full screen and can hear me okay. If not, please put something in the chat box so I know. Okay. Hope everyone is having a good week and staying healthy with the coronavirus. That's all I've been hearing about this week. It's a little bit scary. So I hope you guys are all staying healthy. Hey, Nicole. And washing your hands and staying safe. And also adjusting to the new time zone. That's been a little bit of an adjustment in our house for the kids, getting them up and to school on time this week. So hopefully by next week we'll be fully adjusted. So I'm sure people are going to be filtering in, but it looks like we've got some people who are here and ready to go. So I'm going to get started. And today is the third of the series of wealth building webinars that I'm doing monthly, all around different aspects of building wealth and, in particular, real estate investing. And today is a very exciting webinar that I have for you. It's Success Strategies for Real Estate Investing, and it's part 1. And next month in April, I'll be doing part 2. And what we're going to talk about are some strategies that are very accessible even for first-time buyers and first-time investors. So I'm excited to get started. And if anyone has questions, there's a chat box and also a Q&A box. So I'd ask you to put your questions there when you think of them so you don't forget them. And at the end, I will take a few minutes and try to answer all of your questions. Okay, so let's get started. So as most of you all know me already, I'm Carrie Gatto, and I own Big Picture Properties, which is a company within Keller Williams Realty. It's a brand that I created, and I'm looking for ordinary families and individuals who want to harness the power of real estate in order to achieve financial wellness and peace of mind, as well as time freedom. The luxury of time and being able to do what we want with our precious time on this earth. So whether you're interested in buying a multifamily or flipping a home, I can certainly answer all of your questions. And as some of you might know, I had a former life as a filmmaker, and that's partly where the Big Picture Properties comes from. And in that career, I enjoyed jumping into the vision of the writer or director I was working with and making it come to life. And in real estate, I see it as doing a very similar thing. I like to jump into the vision that someone has and help them create that reality that they're dreaming of. So going forward, so when I work with clients, I like to help them think a little bit like an investor and to really see that bigger picture of their real estate transactions and how to leverage their real estate in the best and strongest possible way to build their own personal wealth. And the more abundance that each of us has individually, the more we're able to overflow into the world around us, into our families and our communities and our friends, just like this beautiful fountain here. And that's kind of the vision I have for the importance and the impact that building your own personal wealth can have. It's not just for your own selfish wants and desires, which is fine to have, but it's also for the fact that when we're all abundant, we're able to help others much more too. So with that in mind, let's talk about the topics for today's webinar, which are the strategies of house hacking and flipping. And these are amazing strategies, frankly, because they can, again, be used by just first-time buyers and owner-occupants as well. So owner-occupants being people who live in the property. So you can live in the property and utilize these strategies. So the first strategy we're going to talk about is called house hacking. And if you haven't heard that term before, it was actually coined by people who do the Bigger Pockets podcast, which is an amazing podcast I listen to all the time. I definitely recommend it for just keeping plugged in and inspired about what real estate can do and how to get financial freedom. So Bigger Pockets podcast came up with this term, and it just means basically reducing your monthly housing expenses by renting out a portion of your home. It could just be a bedroom or a room, or it could be a whole unit or even multiple units to offset the mortgage and the other costs of maintaining the property. So for most Americans, the cost of housing is the single largest expense that we have. And the common rule of thumb is that housing should be no more than a third of your whole income. You've probably heard that before. So house hacking, the point of it is to reduce that significantly so that you can then save and invest more of your income. Because as we know, income is the most powerful tool we have for building wealth. And so if you're able to have less regular expenses and save and invest a larger portion, you're going to be able to get to financial freedom a lot quicker. And now I just want to tell you a little bit, a couple of different stories of people who have actually successfully done this. So this is a two-family house that a client of mine purchased in 2014, and she was a first-time buyer. She was previously renting out a two-bedroom apartment for $1,600 a month in Watertown, which isn't that bad. But she bought this two-family for $500,000, putting 10% down. And some of that amount of the down payment she actually borrowed from an IRA. The monthly payment, including mortgage and taxes, totaled $2,700 a month, and she rented out the other unit for $1,700 a month. So obviously her net expense for the mortgage was around $1,000. And then she had other expenses like water and sewer and insurance, which totaled about $441 a month. So still, she was ahead of the game. Her total monthly expenses were here about $1,341, and again, her rental income was $1,700. So I'm sorry. So her total monthly expenses were $3,041. Her rental income was $1,700, and her net housing expense per month was $1,341 after the tenant's rental income. So even lower right off the bat than her apartment she was renting, which, by the way, right after she moved out, her landlord ended up increasing the rent to $2,000 a month. So now in 2020, she just got her house reappraised, and it's now worth $750,000, which is a 150% increase in 6 years. Not a bad return on investment. And because the market rents have also gone up, her total monthly expenses are actually a little bit less now. She refinanced and was able to take advantage of the current low rates that we're experiencing and got about $50 knocked off her monthly payment. So her total monthly expenses are slightly less, just under $3,000 a month. And her rental income, meanwhile, has increased to $2,350 a month, meaning that her current net housing expense is $641. So there you see the power of house hacking. I mean, can you imagine that's such a low, you couldn't get a rent like that in this area. And so over on the right-hand side, this shows what the impact has been on her net worth. which really is kind of the definition of wealth. It's your net worth. And we talked about that in previous webinars. So the current value, like I said, of her home is $750. She currently owes $441 on her property and on her mortgage. And so her equity is currently $309,000. And doing some quick math, that means her return on investment is 5 times what she originally put into it. So she originally put in, remember, $50,000, a 10% down payment, and now she has times that by 5 in her equity. So if she were to sell today, that's what she would get. So it's, you know, just good to look at these numbers and realize, again, the impact it truly does have when you take advantage of the strategy. And so if that's not impressive enough, here's another quick case study for you. And I don't know where you are in life, but it's never too early, and it's also never too late to get started with real estate investing. It's just important to do it as soon as you can, because the benefits compound over time, right? So this is a 3-family that my friend bought when he was only 25. He bought it in 2014 for $435. He used an FHA loan, and it allowed him to put only 3.5% down, which was $15,225. And I happen to know he did borrow about half of that from his parents, you know, so that he was blessed to have that ability, and he has since paid them back. He did some minor updates in the kitchens, baths, and like paint and stuff like that. And then a couple of years later, because his equity had increased with the improvements that he made, and with the payments he was making too, he refinanced and then had 20% down in just a couple of years, which meant that he got rid of the private mortgage insurance, or the PMI, that he was paying because he had originally put less than 20% down. So let's look at the cash flow that he's getting. Currently, he's living in 1 unit, and he's renting out the other 2. And after all expenses are paid, including mortgage payments, he is cash flowing $1,000 a month. That means he's profiting $1,000 a month in his pocket just for living in his house. His house is paying him to live there, which is pretty amazing. However, if he were to actually move out of this property and rent out the 3rd unit as well, the potential income after property management expense would be $2,950 a month, or $35,400 a year. And again, this is about 6 years into it. So it's still early in the game, and these benefits just keep increasing over time. And so right now, this particular friend of mine is thinking of taking a year off of working and going to someplace like Thailand and living there for a year just to experience another, you know, country, another culture. And this property would be able to pay for him to live there just on its own without working. So he has financial freedom, you know, right now if he chooses to. And then looking at the net worth that he's gained too, his property is now worth $700,000, which represents about 160% increase in 6 years. He currently owes $372 on the property, meaning his equity is up to $328, which is not bad for not even 30 years old. And then over here, I just put out some numbers because he actually went ahead and got a home equity line of credit. He wanted to take advantage of the equity he'd built up over time and use it to buy more properties. So this goes beyond house hacking, but it just goes to show how you can leverage the equity in your property and make it even work harder for you. So he's already used $110,000 to buy 2 additional investment properties in the area. He partnered with other people on these, And then he has $65,000 left and he's planning to find one or two more. And then he'll have cash flow coming in from those as well. So he's a very savvy young investor. And again, if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box and we'll definitely get to those at the end. So let's talk a little bit about the benefits of the house hacking, as we've just seen. So you obviously can reduce your living expenses and allows you to save and invest much more of your income, putting you on a faster track to building wealth, as we've just shown. But let's break it down to even more benefits of why house hacking is so great. So it's a super accessible way to start real estate investing because of the ability to put down a lower down payment. So if you don't live in a property and you're buying it purely as an investment vehicle, you would have to put at least 25% down, which is a big chunk of change. So if you're just getting started. So this way, if you're living in the property, you can take advantage of the FHA loan programs that are out there and put as little as 3.5% down in a lot of cases. And so often this down payment amount is even, equitable or just a little bit more than putting first, last, and security down on an apartment. As I mentioned before, my friend had a down payment of $15,000 or so, and he split it with his parents. He partnered with his parents. They had an agreement in writing and everything. So it's a much easier thing to come up with when you're talking about a little percentage for down payment. And if you haven't purchased a home in the last 3 years, you can borrow up to $10,000 from a traditional IRA for a down payment without paying a tax penalty, although you will have to pay income tax on the loan. And if you are married, each spouse can borrow up to $10,000 for a total of $20,000. You may also be able to borrow against your 401k as well. Just check with your CPA or your financial advisor before you make any withdrawals. But this way you can really leverage that money from your account and get the kind of returns that we just talked about. So it's definitely something to look into. Thirdly, the rental market is super hot around here. So any place where, like here, where you have that kind of rental market, the rents continually increase over time. They really don't go down. They just keep going up. And when you buy a rental property, you can obtain a fixed mortgage, right, over 15, 20, or 30 years. So your payment stays the same while the rents keep increasing. So as we showed, even in 5 or 6 years, that can really, again, reduce your payment or reduce your increase your cash flow, over time significantly. Just think if these people had stayed in rentals, like the first example, she'd probably be paying like $2,500 a month and not getting anything for it. Whereas now she's on the good side of that equation and building a lot of wealth and also increasing her cash flow every single year. So kind of going along with that, someone else is paying down your mortgage and increasing your equity. So your tenant is building your wealth for you. So you can see how powerful that can be. So, a lot of times you might have to hustle to get the down payment together to get into the market. Do it. It's worth it in the long run. Find a partner, borrow, beg, don't steal, but find a way and get into the market so that you can start, having these benefits compound over time. So that's house hacking in a nutshell. Now let's talk a little bit about flipping. So essentially, flipping means adding value to a property which is over and above the expense that you invest into it. So you're making 1 + 1 = 3. And in this instance, I'm talking about owner-occupant flipping. So the house is the house that you're living in. And some clients of mine bought a foreclosed condo as their first home for $145,000. I met them as they were actually getting ready to sell it. So unfortunately, I don't have the before pics. So these are pictures from after they fixed it up. They did invest about $20,000 into it. And since they were living in it, again, they were able to purchase it with a low down payment. It was 5%. And they were just starting out, and they were also able to partner with one of their parents. And again, it was a partnership. You know, they had a business agreement, and the parent got a piece of the profit. So it's a win-win. So here's the numbers. Again, I just like to show you the numbers so you can see the real impact. And so they put the 5% down, which was around $7,000. Then they did the updates for $20,000. Again, they were just cosmetics, making their initial investment, including closing costs, around $30,000. And then they sold it 3 years later for $270,000. Meaning their net proceeds were $89,000, and their gain after what they had initially invested was $59,000. So I did a calculation of their return on investment over here, and basically they doubled their investment because $59,000 was their gain and $30,000 was their initial investment. So they basically doubled it. The amount owed on the property. Oops, I think that's a typo. Yeah, that's not right. But anyway, I'll fix that. But they lived there for over 2 years. And that's important to know, because if you live in the property for 2 out of the previous 3 years before you sell it, you don't have to pay capital gains tax. So they were not taxed on the income from the sale, from the profit from the sale. Now, if we combine these strategies, house hacking and flipping, that's how you get the best returns. You get the 1-2 punch. So to demonstrate that, I'll talk about these other clients who bought a large but undervalued 3-family in Boston, again, with only 5% down. And they were really smart. They used a 203K renovation loan, which allowed them to roll the cost of their renovations into the mortgage. It's an amazing product that is underutilized, 203K loan. So their purchase price was $320,000. They budgeted out $105,000 for the rehab, which meant that the total was $425,000. And with the 203K loan, you put a down payment on this total. So you're borrowing, they borrowed 95% of this, and they only put 5% down. So that plus a closing cost was around $25,000 for their initial investment, and they financed $404,000. Okay, their income from all 3 units after they rented out the renovated property was $57,600. Their net income after the expenses was $38,400, or $3,200 a month, and their monthly mortgage payment was $2,169. So cash flow then was $1,031 per month, or $12,372 a year cash flow. Okay, so that's great. They were cash flowing. And by the way, they lived in 1 bedroom of 1 unit. They rented out the 2 other bedrooms in the unit because they were 3-bedroom units. Then they rented out the other 2 units. So it was extreme house hacking. They rented out like as much as they possibly could. And again, got great cash flow, $1,000 a month, just right off the bat. And then sold in 2017. Their sale price was $740,000. They owed $390,000, and cost of sale was $31,874. So their profit was $318,126. Look at their ROI. because their initial investment was so low. They got to roll in the cost of the rehab into the mortgage and put down only $25,000. So their return on investment was 1,100%. I mean, you don't see that anywhere else. It's crazy. And again, they lived there more than 2 years, and they were able to get the residential exemption for the capital gains, which actually for an individual, it's only up to $250. So they were taxed on a small portion of their profit, I believe. Definitely talk to your CPA about that. If you're doing this, make sure you go in with both eyes open. But the cap gains, it's up to $250 for a single person, and $500,000 for a married couple. So they benefited from that too. So look at the benefits of owner-occupant flips. Once again, because you're living there, you can use FHA loans and use less cash for the down payment. So it's easier to get in and get started. Like I said, the 203K loan is an amazing FHA product that is underutilized. I just don't think enough people understand how great it is, because you roll the cost of the renovations into the loan. Okay. And so what they do is they base the loan on what they believe the after renovation value will be. So they have an appraiser who specializes in this kind of loan come in and assess what updates you're doing and what the value will be after you've done them. So it's all very regulated, and they'll let you know if they don't think it's going to come out the way you think. The market value is not going to be what you think it is, and they'll only loan against what they perceive the market value to be after the renovations. So if you'd like to look into that, I can definitely refer you to a mortgage officer to talk to you about it. And then thirdly, accelerated returns, because what you're doing is you're adding value to the property by doing cosmetic updates. I always recommend look for the properties that need, that have a lot of wallpaper and carpet and just basically need updating. We're not looking for homes that have like structural issues or need major repairs. We're looking for the home that just needs a little love, a little TLC. And so it's amazing what just a fresh coat of paint can do, refinishing the floors and just freshening up a place. You can put relatively little money into it and get a big return in a short amount of time. And because you're living there, it's not like you're flipping a home that you're not living in and you're making those extra payments. You're living there. So you have to live somewhere anyway. You have to be paying to live somewhere anyway. Right? So the risk is much less than if you're flipping a home that you don't live in, if that makes sense. And once again, you avoid capital gains by living in the property yourself for at least 2 years. And also you make the home the way you like it. You're not finding a move-in ready property that's already been renovated and you just kind of have to go with whatever's been done already. You get the chance to make it kind of how you like it. Although at the same time, if you are planning to sell it for a profit, you want to make sure that you know what buyers are looking for in the area, in that market, so that you're not too out of whack of what is going to get you your highest price when you do go on the market. So I can help with that. I love to give free consultations. I know what buyers are always looking for. So I can help you get the most bang for your buck with your renovations. Some things to consider, your tolerance for living through construction. I wouldn't recommend doing it with a baby, for example, like I did. We actually had a new bedroom put into a condo when this was in our first property that we purchased in LA. And we had a loft bedroom, but we closed it off. So we put a new wall up there and made a 1-bedroom into a 2-bedroom, which was great. But we had an infant at the time, and it was hard having to live through construction with an infant. I wouldn't recommend it. So keeping that in mind, and again, sticking to minor cosmetic repairs, and having a reliable contractor that is going to be part of your team and is going to be available to provide quotes for you when you need them, so you can make sure when you make an offer, you're confident in the offer and what needs to be done to the house, and that they'll be able to do the work quickly and on time and do the work well, of course. And also on your team, having a realtor, because again, knowing what buyers are looking for, knowing what kind of updates are going to get you the most bang for your buck. I mean, I've had so many people who contacted me after they've done updates, and I'm like, oh, why did you do that? Or why didn't you do that? You know, why did you choose to leave the pink tiled bathroom and instead put in like marble countertops in the kitchen? It just, you know, so you want to make sure you're putting your money in the right places. And again, not to be redundant, but you want to hold for at least 2 years because you don't want to get hit with the capital gains that will really eat into your profits. So make sure you're planning to stay there for at least 2 years. So we're up against the end here, but just so you know, these 3 real estate strategies are actually explained in more detail in my book. You can have it all with real estate, which is available on Amazon, or if you come to the meetup, the next real estate meetup that I'm having on March 25th, I'll have some copies there too. And I'll explain the BRRRR strategy, it's buy, renovate, rent, repeat, in the next webinar I'm having on April 8th. So as I mentioned, March 25th is a real estate investing meetup. This is the link on Eventbrite. I hope you can come. We do them about every month right in Arlington at the Town Tavern. And it's just great to come and hang out with other people who are investing. You might be able to find a partner or just have some inspiration, find out about some hot markets that are happening around the area or in different areas. So it's a great thing to stay engaged and stay inspired and excited about your goals. And then, as I mentioned, the 4th wealth building webinar is coming up on April 8th, same time at 12 o'clock. And it's going to be all around that BRRRR investment strategy, which takes things to a whole new level. And as always, I'm right here in Cambridge. If you want to schedule an appointment with me to talk about your goals, it's no obligation, complimentary consultation. Just reach out on email or call me. And actually, I'll be emailing you an invite to my upcoming event. So you could always just reply to that if you want to have a in-person appointment. And so, yeah, thank you very, very much for attending today. Happy to take questions. And as always, just keep calm and invest in real estate. Don't let fear hold you back and keep you small, because there's so much great potential out there. I'm always excited to share with you the possibilities and help you with the resources and information that you need to feel confident moving forward. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. Oh, I think we have some. Okay, let me see. Are there any laws currently enacted or coming from the legislature that negatively impact house hacking? And when leasing to other roommates during house hacking, what are the differences in tenancy law versus being a traditional landlord and not occupying the property? No, I don't know of any laws currently enacted or coming from the legislature that negatively impact house hacking. I guess the only thing I can think of is there are some laws around Airbnb and short-term rentals that might be what you're thinking of. And that kind of, as far as I know, depends on the city or town that you're in right now. It's not a statewide issue. It's more down to the city or town. But yes, there are things around short-term rentals to be aware of. If you're thinking, I know a lot of people are asking me right now about Airbnbs. And it's not something I have a lot of experience with. And I'm really just a fan of the long-term tenant. I have my own tenants, and I've looked into the Airbnb. There's actually, if you Google online, there's a calculator you can find for discovering the potential of income for Airbnb in your property. And when I looked into it for my property, it wasn't as significant as I thought it would be, because there's also a lot of expenses with Airbnb as well, you know, cleaning, management, the Airbnb fee, and there's a lot of turnover. So you have to maybe put more money into maintaining the property too, making sure that it's up to standard and that kind of thing. So I guess what I'm saying is, in general, I'm not really pushing that strategy because I like the predictability and the security of having that yearly lease in place. You can make sure you get really good tenants and they're going to be there for a long time, which to me, one of the benefits to me of real estate investing is peace of mind. And you might be able to get a bit more profit through short-term rentals and Airbnb, but I like the peace of mind of the long-term lease. And so, yeah, so regarding roommates during house hacking, what are the differences in tenancy law versus being a traditional landlord not occupying the property? Okay. Good question. Not sure if I can refuse renting to a roommate based on criteria that would not be allowed if okay, I see where you're headed with that. Yeah, there are some differences. So even if you, yes, even if you are talking about a different unit in your own property where you live, you do have some more leeway about choosing who takes that property. So in Massachusetts, there are fair housing laws that mean a landlord can't discriminate against people for, you know, race, marital status, familial status, gender, gender identity, and it might be national origin, things like that, or sexual orientation. So a landlord in general can't discriminate against people for like having kids or race or anything along those lines. And however, if you are living in the property and you're renting out the other unit or renting out a room in your property, I think those rules are somewhat relaxed in that you can choose to like not have kids, I believe, and you might want to check with an attorney on this, but because they also, these kinds of things can change. But last I heard, you could actually choose not to rent to like a family with young kids if you live in the property. I think that is so, but again, check with an attorney. So if someone lives in your unit and you're renting out a bedroom, that's, yeah, it's hard to say. I guess I don't know. I'll have to look into it and see if specifically there are different rules around that. I want to say that there are, but I can't say for sure, but I'll find out. So if you want to email me, I'll get back to you. Or like I said, you can check with an attorney. Personally, I would want to be careful if I had someone living in as a roommate. I would want to make sure it's the right person. So I can understand the question. Okay, great. Awesome. So, and that's the other thing with Airbnb too, having a family, I don't know that I'd want all kinds of strangers renting in the unit next to me. So one thing to consider if you are thinking about the Airbnb route as well is, do you want people in and out every week or every few days right next to you, just for security reasons? Not saying it's a bad idea, just something to consider. Any other questions about house hacking or flipping? Okay, well, again, I will be emailing everyone invites to the meetup and hope you can make it. And feel free to, if questions come up, just email me or call me, and I'm more than happy to help. Yeah, so thank you so much for coming today, and enjoy the beautiful spring weather, and hope to see you around. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.